more traditional hex signs, you're right. They do not look like this. They maybe have a star in them, but they mostly have like, and they're, symmetrical, but they have like birds and hearts and flowers and
Hmm.
different things about
Yeah.
fertility or good harvest and that kind of thing. So mine is really just the most commonality in it is the star shape that's sometimes in the middle. But yeah, hex signs, I don't even think I could paint a traditional one because there's so many flourishes that you have to repeat like in
Hmm.
patterns. So
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of what you're doing, like just looking at the two behind your head, I mean, those are very involved. They take a lot of, I could imagine, a lot of patience, a lot of concentration, and dedication to like seeing the vision through to the end because of the repetitive nature of it. And you mentioned like how some of the hex signs could like evoke kind of energies for certain manifestations that like a farmer in his community might want to have like a good harvest or fertility, so to speak. And I always find that idea to be so fascinating as well, kind of woven into all kinds of folk art traditions across the globe, is this sort of way in which they not only weave like their imagery in relation to their culture, but also in relation to their consciousness or things they want to manifest or prayers in some ways, like things they're trying to bring forth. Do you ever think about that component too? Like about how like the work can almost be like a tangible version of a prayer or a blessing or an affirmation or whatever, kind of a manifestation of a conscious idea that you're trying to bring forth?
absolutely. Yeah. Like, and sometimes um they are referenced as painted prayers, the original ones, the hex signs that you see on barns. And folk art and folk magic go together, right?
Hmm.
There is some research in history that the reason people made what's considered folk art is for magical purposes. So hex signs, they have this funny history. Not all of it's true. Okay, they're called a hex sign, so people think it's witchcraft. No, it's just that that's the German word for six, and a lot of them had six pointed.
Hmm.
So I always thought that was funny. Plus, Pennsylvania Dutch people are German, not Dutch.
Yeah.
That was just like bad reporting from the 1800s. Like they said Deutsch and meant German. And
Oh my
anyways, I
God.
think all that's
That's
really
funny.
funny. That's what just like was like, I want to latch onto this. Also, I found out that my dad had made little hex sign souvenirs when he was a kid because
Whoa.
it's a bit of a souvenir, folk arty industry for them in Pennsylvania and
Well,
other.
that's interesting how you're now, you know what I mean? Like how there is this almost like thread through your family and tradition. And did you discover that like recently, or was that sort of something you
It was like,
discovered along your journey making these?
yeah, I think it was like I had started making them. I had tried to do a traditional one, which has a bird on it called a distal fink. It's two birds. So I did actually one time, I just remembered, made that from my dad. I didn't grow up with my dad around all the time. I just only saw him like infrequently. Um,
Hmm.
that's why it like helped me connect more, and it was a thing we bonded about. But yeah, I didn't really talk to him about them until I had been making them for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, we had this kind of connection about
That's
it.
really cool.
I just
Yeah,
love
and it's
that.
interesting how you brought up this connection between like folk art and folk magic and
Hmm.
sort of how, I don't know, through like Puritanism and sort of like a staunch conservative kind of religiosity that sort of overtook a lot of like American, even rural culture, kind of snuffing out the animistic or the sort of pan psychic kind of perspective that maybe a lot of like traditional people kind of had. I don't know if like, I think a lot about like, people always say like witchcraft, but like I think of Wicca or I think of like kind of these other forms of spirituality, and how like you do see not only in those forms of spirituality, but really across the globe, all kinds of religions using art and art making as a way of connecting with spirit or a way of connecting with like a different kind of energy or intention, using them as like protective amulets or using them to like like you were like referencing, like to sort of cultivate fertility or grid harvest. So I find like these traditions, they, even though they've been kind of like snuffed out, they're still around. They still have to, it's like almost like a weed like breaking through the cement. No matter what we do, like this kind of energy is still going to find its way back out. And I think we live in an interesting time where people are more and more open to thinking about consciousness and spirituality in sort of new ways outside of like a dogmatic tradition. Is this something that you think about like in your own art? Like when you're making some of these pieces, like are you meditating on a certain idea? Are you thinking about a certain affirmation or prayer or energy you want to cultivate? Or is that just something that maybe is secondary?
No, I definitely say they come with good luck, free with good luck added or something. I don't know. Well, just real quick back to the traditional hex signs, there was some debate about whether they were just for nice, is the term, just for nice or for folk magic. And I think that's because they were secretive about the magic part. They didn't want to reveal that. But the reason I believe hex signs were for these like spiritual kind of blessings for the family. Um, uh, Sorry, I'm all over the place.
No, no, you're not at all. This is so
That-
fascinating for me
that's
to think about.
right. Thank you. I got my train of thought back. Uh, they would put hex signs like under on the bottom of a chair, the underside of a chair, or inside a
Wow.
little box. So that's why I think it was kind of magic and, trying to bring some energy. Now, I'm
Hmm.
always asking artists, do you feel like your work is directed by something else? Like, do you feel like there's some other power, like moving your hand? And it can feel that way when I do something this detailed and then look at it later. I'm like, who did that? Like, I
Right?
don't remember that. Like, did I just space out? And I do space out, but it is kind of amazing to look at something and just like not, you were kind of in a art making trance. That's the best
Hmm.
place to be, where you could just
Yeah.
paint something super detailed. And they took a while, these big ones, but really just a month each, so it's not taking like my whole life, although if it was oil I think it would be longer. But yeah, I mean, the painted prayers idea about traditional hex signs really resonated with me. I am just like pouring my heart and energy into this object, as anyone does who makes things. And it's a unique object. And so, how could it not be infused with the vibes or the energy or the
For
good
sure.
intention? And because you're in that meditative trance state, it's not usually a negative place. So it's just
Hmm.
all this positivity going into
Yeah.
the thing. There is like some sad parts to it. I said to someone once a long time ago, like, yeah, my work looks really happy because it's really colorful, but it's actually kind of sad. Like, because it's a record of your life. I was painting one when my uncle passed away and finished it after, like a record of time, and like put in this blue color of his eyes. And now I have several paintings that I've been in the middle of or did in honor of someone who's
Wow.
so in that way they can be a little bit sad, but that's, just to me, because I remember what was going on in my life when they happened.
Hmm.
And I do want to honor them and like make a beautiful thing in honor of them.
Yes.
And I lost my mom last year. Bless her, my best friend and most wonderful
Oh,
person. And I just made this like all white and really pale pink painting for her.
oh,
Um, and because she just like had this pale pink sweater she liked. And
oh,
like I also spoke to a sort of shaman medium who said my mom was sending me pink sunrise images. So
oh.
that has really affected my work. I'm not painting as much, and when I am, it's really neutral colors, just because my life has changed so dramatically that
Hmm.
my work is just naturally going to.
Yeah.
And it is really therapeutic too. Art has always been therapeutic. When I was a little only child with a single mom, and like,
Yeah.
really like something that kept me excited and kept me busy and like learning how to make funny things or one time I made this little character out of a soap bottle, a pump soap bottle, and
Hmm.
he was looked funny, polka dotted or something. And my idea was that, I can't believe I'm telling this. I haven't thought.
I love it. This is great.
My idea was that when people made fun of him, you could squirt water at them with the little pump out of the soap. It's hard to explain, but
I
yeah,
love.
the face on it. And I'm sure like someone was making fun of me in school and I was like working through it in my little crafty projects. So um it's, I always like, some people have asked me over the years, like, should I be an artist? And I'm like, if you don't, if you can't, if you don't just make stuff because you can't help it, like you can't help but make things, then
Hmm.
it's probably not for you, like
Yeah.
anyone who was like, I'm gonna be an artist and wasn't already being an artist when they were little, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I also think anybody can be an artist. Someone was just saying to me, like, I like making things, but I have no artistic talent. I said, just make 100 more of those things and there's your talent. The
Yeah. Right. Time.
talent
Yep.
is practice. That's why it's
Yes.
art practice. So yeah, when people say like, "Oh, you're so talented," I'm like, "You could do this," and they
Mm.
do. Little kids make these because I had this video on PBS about how to make my magic hexagons, and
Oh, wow.
has like hundreds of thousands of views. Teachers send
That's
me
amazing. Oh,
little kids designs and they might be crayon and messy, but they like take the patterns to places I haven't. So I truly think like everyone has that creativity and like talent.
definitely.
You just gotta practice.
Yeah, it's just a matter of practice, like how you want to channel your energy, how do you want to spend your time. And not everybody's willing to put that time in because they're, for whatever reason, they're drawn toward other things. And that's cool too. But I think that creative principle, the essence of art, as like that creative principle is inside all of us, because that is the essence, in my opinion, of life itself, is the creative principle. So it is encoded in everything. So it naturally is going to come through in some way. It might not come through in the form of like an intentional, tangible thing that we call art. But it can come through in other forms as well. But I want to circle back to everything that you shared. And I just want to thank you for like sharing, being vulnerable and sharing about the passing of your mother, which I'm so, sending my heart and love to you for, because I haven't lost a parent, so I can't even relate, but I can empathize on certain levels, and I can relate to the idea that when you're making these works, you're in this meditative space, this flow space, this trance space. And I love how you said it's not, even though they look happy, it's not always about all perfect good feelings, because in reality, that's just not life. Like life is a soup of the entire range of emotional experience from every direction. And so to negate that would be to sort of snuff out what life's about. And I think in art, like when you're making that piece, it's a journey, right? You said it took a month. So it's like over the course of the month, are you always on a 10 and happy every moment of the month? Hell no. I mean, if you are, please tell me what you're doing, but that's not the mark of existence, right? Like the mark of existence is this flow of changing landscapes of emotion and experience. And what sort of maintains itself is a state of awareness through it all. And I think your art, like the awareness of maintaining the integrity of your pattern, your approach is there, but in the background, it's like every emotional quality is in it too. And so that's, to me, what makes it so real and so beautiful and so capable of being connected to, because it was made by a human being who is multifaceted with multiple kinds of experiences happening while they're making it. And I think that's what makes it so powerful and beautiful. And you don't even know you're channeling it when you're doing it, but it just comes through kind of naturally because of your degree of focus and concentration. And I think about that in my own work too. Like I have intentions, like I want my work to feel a certain way, but I can't control necessarily what it's going to feel for other people. Like my hope is that it creates sort of a boundary of like positivity, or a container for like love, really, for like comfort and love or inspiration, or even like awe inducing, because I think that is sort of a portal to like a higher state of mind, when we're induced through awe. But at the end of the day, like we can't control how people are going to receive our work, but we can be connected with like the spirit that goes into it.